Right, welcome everyone. We're going to be going through our cattle checkers online training today. So basically we ran this course online on Zoom on a Tuesday evening, and I wanted to provide a summary of what we went over in the meeting and provide a kind of an online version that you can check and you can refer back to. So that's basically the purpose of me making this video. We did have help from John, who is the farmer who manages the cattle at Stanwell Moor and Denham Country Park. He helped us massively with the Zoom training, and he helped provide that, and he was a massive help. So thank you to John. Lonica here on the right of this photo, she helped set the project up, and a lot of you who were involved last year will know her. We couldn't have done it without her, so I want to give her a lot of credit for this project. So I wanted to say that first. And basically, hopefully this course will outline a little bit about conservation grazing, a little bit about the Colne Valley, and about how you can help care for the cattle that graze in it. The cattle behind me they're not actually behind me. It's a background. I might have fooled you there, but the cattle behind me are Sussex cattle that we use to graze the Misbourne Meadow, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a second. If it will let me change slide, which it will now. Good, excellent. Colne Valley Regional Park. So that's the area shown on the map here. It's 43 square miles, and it's the first taste of countryside west of London. You can see it includes some quite major towns: Staines, Uxbridge, Rickmansworth, and various others. Heathrow is just to the east. And as you can see, it's quite a wet valley. The River Colne that gives it its name runs down the middle. There's a lot of lakes down the spine, and there's reservoirs at the bottom which form part of this special protected area and international Ramsar site, which is a site designation given to wetland areas of international importance. So there's some very significant aquatic habitats in the valley. There's also a lot of woodland, a lot of grassland, and triple SI, sites of special scientific interest, and various other sites. There's a lot of important habitats within the Colne Valley, but it's also kind of interspersed in a mosaic of urban and rural environments, and that kind of gives it quite a unique character, I feel, and something which you don't get in a lot of other places in the country. So I think it's a very unique and important area that is quite, a lot of people don't really know too much about the Colne Valley or where it is. So hopefully this will provide you a little bit more context. The Colne Valley basically aims to improve the area for people and wildlife through recreation and conservation and various other things like access, etc. There's a lot of different wildlife that you can find here. Some of my personal favourites, I guess one of my personal favourite sites is Staines Moor in the south, which is very close or part of the site that we graze. You get all sorts there, from barn owls to, skylarks and muntjac and roe deer, and you get water voles more in the north and the centre of the valley and stuff like that. So there's a lot of interesting wildlife about. So my name's Adam Bolton, and I work as the Habitats and Access Project Manager on the Landscape Partnership Scheme. So we've got £2.5 million from the Heritage Lottery Fund. The project's 3 years in total. We're about a year and a half into it now. 1.6 million of that money roughly is funded by the lottery themselves, and the rest is funded very generously by partners of the project, including Thames Water, wildlife trusts, local councils, and the scheme basically consists of 19 projects, including access projects, projects to improve the quality of rivers, projects to improve the quality of other habitats, projects to help endangered water voles, and the conservation grazing project, which is kind of where you come in. So our conservation grazing project involves the grazing of 3 fields, one in the north at Stockers Lake in Rickmansworth, one in the middle at the Misbourne Meadow in Denham Country Park, and one in the south at Stanwell Moor, the field next to King George VI Reservoir, just north of the main body of Staines Moor. So those are our 3 sites, and those are what is covered by our project. But what exactly is conservation grazing? So conservation grazing is basically the use of livestock to manage grazing in a way that encourages wildflowers and basically gets on top of the coarse grasses, brambles, nettles, and those slightly less desirable high nutrient plants. Helps reduce the nutrients on site and encourage wildflowers. And that basically benefits a load of different wildlife, from the insects that pollinate those wildflowers to the birds that feed on the insects, ground nesting birds will thrive in the shorter grasses and be able to breed on there. So it benefits a lot of wildlife. So as I said, we run this grazing project across the 3 sites. John, as a farmer, is responsible for the Misbourne and the Stanwell grazing, and a farmer called Nick is responsible for the grazing at Stockers Lake. So we've got 3 different breeds actually for the 3 different sites. So we've got, I believe Nick uses Dexter's at Stockers Lake, Dexter's cattle. John uses Sussex cattle, which are pictured behind me at the Misbourne Meadow, and John uses Aberdeen Angus, which are pictured in the photo here for Stanwell Moor. So we've got 3 different cattle. John's farm is based opposite Black Park in the Colne Valley, and the cattle were all kind of a mixed, kind of a lot of the cattle, particularly at Denham this year, are very young, but often there's a variety of ages. Sussex are actually I believe are the most similar to the native, kind of the most local breed that we have in this country to the sites that we're grazing. In terms of numbers, this year I'm not certain about the Dexters at Stockers. I need to talk to Nick about that, but I believe it might have been 6 last year, but I'm not certain. What I do know for certain is that we have 8 coming to the Misbourne Meadow, hopefully Wednesday the 20th, which is only 2 days away, and 10 coming to Stanwell Moor, hopefully on Friday the 22nd. So that's the plan at the moment, and that's the kind of numbers that we're going to have. So right, this is where you come in. So as much as we'd love to, we can't be everywhere in the valley at the same time. You know, John's a very busy man. He runs a farm. I've got lots of projects that I'm running, and you know, we're only 2 people and we can't be everywhere at the same time. But we are, what is vital and what is of paramount importance to us is the welfare of the livestock, and obviously your safety whilst performing the livestock checks as well. So we need help basically to make sure that the cattle are okay, and to perform checks on them. So I'm hoping that this training and the one that we ran live on the Tuesday evening will help provide some background as to how you can perform those checks and how you can get involved whilst you're out on your walks, because these are beautiful sites. All of the sites are really beautiful to go for a lovely walk. You can take your binoculars, do some bird watching, whatever, take your dog for a walk, etc. And just help us out whilst you're doing it, doing some livestock checks, etc. And basically just killing 2 birds with 1 stone, I suppose. So firstly, you want to make sure that all the cattle are there. Seems quite simple, but it's quite important. In fact, it's very important. If there's supposed to be 8 cattle at Denham Country Park and you can only see 7, we'd like to know. They are good at hiding, so maybe there's one just hiding in the brambles, and they can be quite lazy, so sometimes they will just lie down hidden and you might not see them all, but someone hopefully will see all of them at some point within those couple of days, and we'll know basically whether there's likely to be one missing. So we need to know that they're all accounted for. I had a horrible incident, although in hindsight you might find it a little bit funny, but we had cattle escape from a field in Sunbury on a previous job, and the head of neighbourhood services and all of the local bin men were running around the streets of Sunbury upon Thames on a Sunday morning trying to catch this cattle that had escaped. Obviously we don't want that to happen in the Colne Valley, so please do report if there's any cattle missing, and we will try to avoid having some sort of political incident. So how to spot signs of illness and injury? It's quite simple. You should be able to tell quite easily whether the cattle is different from the others and is not acting in the way that you might expect and that you might be used to with the cattle. Either they might not get up, they might be very lethargic, they might be limping, they might be holding a leg up, they can often get injuries to their feet and to their legs. So you want to be looking at the way they walk, make sure they've got a normal gait, make sure that they are standing up okay and that they're not refusing. Sometimes they are just very, very lazy, so you do need to take that into consideration, but you should be able to spot basically with a combination of their gait, how lethargic they look, and whether they're able to walk and stand up normally, whether they're of good health. You also, if you obviously see any injuries on them, any marks, any scratches, any cuts, or stuff like that, then you can obviously report that to us as well. I will get into how we can have our reporting system in a little bit. And obviously paramount is your health and safety. You will be asked when you register to sign a very basic risk assessment, just basically just saying, you know, trips and falls, that kind of thing, because obviously there's some uneven ground on the fields that they graze. And also obviously at the moment with COVID-19 social distancing regulations and stuff like that. So you will be asked to sign a risk assessment when you register, but it's nothing too strenuous, and hopefully quite self-explanatory. In terms of your health and safety, these animals are very docile. We would not be putting them in the field if we thought they were any risk to people whatsoever. But obviously they are big animals, so you still need to take care when you're around them. In terms of dogs on leads, keep your dog under control whilst walking through the fields. But what we do say, and what might seem counterintuitive to some, is that if cattle come and show an interest in your dog, please do let your dog off the lead. The reason for this is that if the cattle decide to chase the dog, highly unlikely, but if they do, they will chase the dog and that you will not get caught in the crossfire, and the dog will just be able to get away. So that's basically the idea behind that. But just otherwise, if they don't show an interest and they don't care, just keep your dog on a lead and it should be fine. You don't have to walk through the field if you don't want to. You can walk round. All the fields have paths that go around the outside and you can count the cattle from outside. You can also beat the bounds from outside, which is basically checking the fencing, making sure everything's secure, making sure there's no holes in the fence, that the cows can't escape, that the gates are working okay, and stuff like that. These are really important checks. And if there is a problem with any of the fencing, we can come down and fix that. Obviously, we need to know that there is a problem before we can do that. Water is crucial. The cattle can't survive without it. And if they don't have a supply of water, we need to know about it. So the way that we supply the water to the cattle is through pasture pumps. They're located in a number of different locations on the fields, and are connected to local streams or water bodies that pump the water from these natural sources, so that we don't have to constantly turn up and provide them with water, and that risks them running out. But we do need people to check on these pasture pumps. So how it works is the cattle apply pressure on the pump, which releases the water from the stream, and it comes down into a collecting bowl. If the bowl is dry, or if you press on the pasture pump and no water comes out, we need to know about that, and we can come down and solve the problem. I will send out maps of where exactly the pasture pumps are to those that do register, and we'll get onto the registration process in a second. Also, we put important signage up, including the rules about keeping your dogs on the lead and that kind of stuff, the advice. And if any of this is missing, or like the farmer's details are missing, then we need to know about that, and we can replace the signage. So you'll get to know what signage is there and what needs replacing. So what happens if there is an issue? We have a few ways of doing this. I will put my email in the link to this video or in the description of this video, and to make sure that you have that. You'll also need that for the registration process. John's number is on screen and my number is on screen at the moment. So if there's any urgent issues, phone one of those numbers. Otherwise, we will invite you to join a WhatsApp group for the site that is local to you and the site that you're likely to check the cattle on. So we have a WhatsApp group for Stockers, one for Misbourne and one for Stanmore Moor. And what you can do is you can just report when you go there to make sure that all the cattle are safe. Just say, yeah, check the cattle, water's okay, fencing, etc. There's Stockers actually run a nice simple code, which they'll explain to you once you're added to the WhatsApp group. That basically just summarizes to make sure all the cattle are there, and it's a very easy way of doing it. So they'll tell you all about that when you sign up. John ran over a little bit about the food chain and the cattle's place in it when we were on the live training. I won't go over it in too much detail now because it's not so relevant to the actual training or to the actual course, but cattle play an important role in the food chain, as I'm sure you're aware. John is, as well as doing conservation grazing, he's also a beef farmer, and they do perform, they do have a role in the food chain, and not just our human food chain, but they have a massive role in the natural food chain and the ecosystems of the fields in which they graze by increasing the numbers of wildflowers and basically aiding pollination and kickstarting that process. So they provide massive help for a massive part of both the human and the natural food chains. So on the live training, we did have questions at this point. Obviously, we won't be having that now, but I will run over quickly how you can go about registering. So firstly, thank you so much for watching this video and for showing an interest, because honestly, we could not do this without you. It's essential to us to have people like you supporting us and supporting the project, because we wouldn't be able to run it if we weren't sure that the cattle were safe and well looked after. And obviously, John as a farmer and me as an animal lover, we care about we genuinely care about the livestock and about their well-being. So we really value your input and your cooperation with this project. So if you're interested and you want to register, my email will be attached and my phone number is in this presentation. You're welcome to just call me up and ask any questions that you have. That number is there for you whenever you need it. But I will send out to anybody who is interested, drop me an email, tell me what site you'd like to check, a bit of info about whether you're local and stuff like that, and whether you'd like to join the WhatsApp groups. And what I'll do is I will send you the registration form. It's a short form. Like I trimmed it down a little bit because I know I hate it when you've got to sign massive forms to sign up to stuff and you don't want to do it. It's just a few tick boxes and stuff like that, and then a signature just to say that you know we're allowed to have your email, etc. So just sign that up and send it back to me, and then I'll get you in the WhatsApp group and get you logged as a cattle checker, and you can start just going out on your walks and reporting to us any issues. And if there are any issues, obviously, then you can report them to me. And if you have any questions at all, as I say, drop me an email or give me a call. And I'm more than happy to help. But hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully you feel like you can provide some help for us, because that would be amazing and so important for our project. So thank you for watching, and I hope that I'll catch you checking our cattle soon. Bit of a mouthful, but thanks for now and take care.